The story started when the protagonist was seen coughing, saying that it was so dark and it hurt her, and she continued by saying that every time she coughed, her body hurts, and then she wondered how long had it been since they put her in this cage, as it was so dark that she didn't even know what time of the day it was. But there was one thing she knew, and that was that she was not going to live for much longer, because either she would die inside this cage or another cruel human would buy and torture her again. And then she again started coughing, and suddenly she became scared when she felt someone's presence. She then realized that he was a person with eyes full of distrust for everyone, and then she wondered what would happen to her if a person with such eyes bought her, and then she rejected this thought, saying that it was okay as no one would ever want such a tattered slave like her. The man then asked her to raise her face, and then she explained that this was her fateful meeting with Nofumi, the shield hero, a few months ago, at Seto territory, Luralona village. The protagonist was sitting with her friend on a bench when her friend referred to her as Raphtalia and asked her if there was a person she liked. Raphtalia gave the thought and then answered her by saying that she liked her father. Her friend smiled and blubbered to her that that was not what she meant. Raphtalia then referred to her friend as Rifana and asked her if she had one. She replied to her by saying that she wanted to marry someone like the great legendary heroes. Raphtalia then asked her who were great legendary heroes. Rifana shockingly asked her if she didn't know and continued by explaining to her that a long time ago there was a sword, a spear, a bow, and a shield hero. Suddenly Rifana's mother came there telling her that it was about time to go home. She understood her, and then she apologized to Raphtalia, saying that she had to go home now, and told her that she would continue the story next time. She complied with her and then thanked her. She then started wondering what kind of people were the great legendary heroes, and then she went home. At night, Raphtalia's mother asked her if she could bring the dishes that she had finished eating. She complied with her, saying okay. Her mother thanked her and exclaimed to her that she could now go and play. She then became happy and ran off to play, but then she saw her father and went towards her and asked her if he knew what the great legendary heroes were. Her father then asked her if she knows about the great heroes too. She answered him by saying yes and continued by telling him that Rifana told her a little. Her father then realized that that made her interested, and then he mumbled to her that he would read her the book about the great legendary heroes. She then happily thanked her father. Her father then explained to her that a long time ago, an apocalyptic prophecy about this world came to be, and to escape the disaster, the people summoned heroes from another world and asked them for help. He continued by explaining to her that the 4 heroes possessed their respective weapons, that were sword, spear, bow, and shield. Raphtalia then asked her if shield was a weapon too. Her father answered her by saying that he did not know that either, but then she asked her if she didn't think that the idea of a hero that only defeats enemies but also protects the people was wonderful. She became amazed by thinking about the hero that protects the people, and then she uttered that that was so cool. Her father also told her that among the 4 heroes, the great shield hero especially treats demi-humans kindly. Raphtalia then stated that she wanted to meet him. Her mother then came inside the room and exclaimed to her that if she kept being a good girl, then she was sure that she could meet him someday. She then asked her if that was so and continued by asking her father to read her the stories about the great shield hero. Her father muttered to her that she had come to like the great shield hero a lot. She also agreed with him. Next day, Raphtalia went to Rifana and informed her that she had her father read her a story of the great legendary heroes. Rifana then excitedly asked her if that was so and continued by asking which story. She answered her by saying that it was about the great shield hero, but then suddenly they heard an explosion. The people there wondered what was that. Raphtalia and Rifana noticed that the sky was red, and she exclaimed to her that she was scared. Suddenly a boy shouted saying that there were things coming out from there, and then someone stated that that was an army of monsters. After seeing that, everyone started running while an army of monsters attacked everyone. Rifana then afraidly blubbered to Raphtalia that they should run, and she also complied with her and started running. However, a monster came right in front of them and tried to attack them, but some men came in front of them saying that they should at the very least let the children escape. They then asked both of them to hurry up and run. They started running towards their respective house while they saw everyone being killed by monsters. After a while, Raphtalia saw her parents and started running towards them, but she fell on the ground. Her father pushed the monsters to save her, but he injured his hand. Her mother then worriedly asked him if he was all right. He answered her by saying that he was all right, and then he took Raphtalia in his lap and suggested that they should now run. Suddenly a wolf monster started following them, and Raphtalia noticed that and informed her father that it would catch up to them if this kept going on, and then they reached a cliff. She started thinking that they had been cornered, and if this kept going on, then they all would die. Her father then apologized to her, and her mother exclaimed to her that they wanted her to live, and then they asked her to forgive them for their selfishness. They pushed her from the cliff into the river to save her, saying that they hoped that she could keep smiling. The wolf monster then attacked her father and mother and killed them. Raphtalia cried to them, and then she fell into the river. After a while, she came out of the water and became traumatized and started shouting. She then explained that after that, her memories were fuzzy, but she managed to reunite with survivors, and she continued by saying that she survived. But everyone lost people they loved, and then she remembered that her father and mother hoped that she could keep smiling. A boy hugged Raphtalia and Rifana, saying that he was so glad that they both survived and that they were able to meet. Raphtalia then blubbered that it was hard, but she decided to move forward because if she kept being a good girl, the great shield hero might come, and she kept doing her best with that thought. But then the slave hunters came and captured them. The slave hunter smiled menacingly and asked them to cry louder. Present day. No Fumi, the shield hero then asked Raphtalia to raise her face. She complied with his order. The slave hunter informed him that that raccoon type had panic attacks and illness, and he was also having a hard time looking after her, and he continued by informing him that her previous owner was a person that loved to torture his slaves, and he thought she would not be able to live for much longer. No Fumi then asked her what her name was and continued by asking if she didn't have one. She became scared and stuttered to him that her name was Raphtalia. He then smiled and told the slave hunter that he had decided that he would choose this slave. The slave hunter then took some of No Fumi's blood and made a seal on Raphtalia's chest. She tried to resist it, and was in great pain thinking that her body was being dominated from inside. No Fumi looked at the slave hunter, and he exclaimed to him that there was nothing to worry about as it would calm down soon. After a while, she stopped resisting, and the slave hunter asked him to see and informed him that now this girl could not defy him, and continued by telling him that the price was 30 silver coins. Raphtalia then started thinking that 30 silver coins was her price. The slave hunter then exclaimed to No Fumi that it was 1 coin too much. He replied to him by saying that it was the commission as he was going to charge him for that anyway. The slave hunter smiled and blubbered to him that he understood well. He then held Raphtalia's hand and asked her to stand up as they were leaving. The slave hunter uttered to him that he was looking forward to his next visit, and then they left. While walking, Raphtalia asked him where they were going. He answered her by saying that they were going anywhere he wanted, and then he asked her to just keep silent and follow him. She afraidly complied with him. They then reached a weapons shop. He then asked her not to just stand over there as she had to go in too. She covered her face saying that she would go inside, and then she requested him not to hit her. He became flustered, saying that like hell he would hit her over something so trivial. She became confused and complied with him and went inside the shop. The shop receptionist welcomed him by calling him the Shield Kid and asked him who was with him. No Fumi then asked the reception to give her a weapon that she could use and continued by telling him that the budget was 6 silver coins. Raphtalia wondered why he was getting a weapon. The receptionist became hesitant and then agreed with him, telling him that if the budget was 6 silver coins, then there was the range. He then asked him to choose one from there that was easy to hold. No Fumi then asked her which one did she think was the most suited. Raphtalia picked up a knife, saying that she would like this one. He then informed her that that would be her weapon. She became confused and the receptionist was hesitant too, but then he gave her a pair of clothes. No Fumi blubbered to him that he was not asking for that though. The receptionist exclaimed to him that it was a bonus. He then mumbled to him he would accept that if it was like that, and then he asked her to wear that. She confusedly complied with his order. After a while she came outside wearing the new clothes. No Fumi told her that she took too long. She then apologized to him. He accepted her apology and then ordered her to draw out her knife. She then started wondering if she had to draw out the knife for what. He then suddenly took his cape off and asked her to stab and pop these things. She became afraid seeing that those things were monsters and started thinking that if she got bitten by such a monster, it would surely hurt her, and then she mumbled that she could not do it. No Fumi shouted at her saying that that was an order. She tried to deny him, but then the seal got activated and it hurt her. He then muttered to her that if she refused him, she would only suffer. She then started thinking that if this went on, she would die from defying his order and continued by saying that she didn't want to do it but she had to do this. She then took her knife and stabbed one of the monsters. Nofumi told her that it was too weak, and then he asked her to use more power. She then again stabbed that monster with more power, and it got killed. He then patted her head saying that she did a good job. She then wondered what was this, as somehow it was so warm. Nofumi then realized that he got his EXP increased too. The receptionist explained to him saying that it was probably because she was set as his companion when the contract was formed, and then he asked him if he didn't set one with the girl from before. Raphtalia tried to say something, but he turned back asking her to listen and told her that from now on he would force her to fight monsters, as he would have her work to at least pay off the price he paid for her. She then became confused, wondering why she had to fight monsters, and continued by questioning if he was going to dispose of her after that. The receptionist then mumbled to him that he was not going to die a painless death. Nofumi thanked him for his compliment and then asked Raphtalia to hurry up. She complied with him and they left the shop. The receptionist then muttered that he didn't know whether it was their country to blame or if the kid was just being corrupted, and then he prayed that he would not do more cruel things to the girl. While walking, Nofumi realized that he only had 3 silver coins left. Raphtalia started thinking that he did not have much money, and he might hit her if he got upset, and she didn't want that. She then noticed that some of the demi-humans were beaten by their master, asking them not to dawdle and carry the luggage properly. The demi-humans apologized to their master. She then started explaining that they, the demi-humans, were hated, and unlike them, she would be forced to fight, and she wondered which of them was suffering more. Her stomach then started growling because of hunger, and he heard that. He then asked her if she was hungry. She answered her by saying that she was not hungry, thinking that she could not beg for food or she would get hit. Nofumi explained to her that she could not fight on an empty stomach, and then he decided that they would go and get some lunch. She became shocked listening to this and wondered why he was letting her eat, and then she mumbled that she could not be happy about this, as this person must have been the same with others. They then reached a food store. Raphtalia noticed that there was a notice that demi-humans were not allowed to enter. She tried to inform him of that, but he didn't listen to her and asked her what was wrong, and then he mumbled to her to hurry up. She became shocked, thinking that he didn't realize that, and then she wondered if he was doing this on purpose to enjoy her reaction, but then she exclaimed that defying his order would hurt her. The people sitting there angrily wondered why there was a demi-human here, and continued by wondering if they could not read the signed word outside. One of the people uttered that it was filthy, as now his food would taste bad. She then saw a child eating food with his parents and telling them that it was delicious. She then thought that it looked delicious, and she wanted something like that too. Nofumi then asked her to hurry up and sit. The owner of the store came there, apologizing to him and telling him that demi-humans were not allowed here. He then asked him if there was a problem. Raphtalia then realized that perhaps this person didn't really care about her being a demi-human. The owner of the store then complained to him that he hated demi-humans, and so did other customers. Nofumi then blubbered to him that that was not his problem, and continued by telling him that they were starving here, and then he asked him to make this quick. He then showed the owner that there were monsters under his cape. The owner referred to those monsters as balloons, and then asked him if he was the shield hero. The owner then understood him and started taking his order. Nofumi then muttered to him to give him the cheapest food here, and she would have whatever that kid was having. Raphtalia became shocked and asked why. The owner informed him that that would cost him 9 copper coins. He then paid him and asked her if she wanted something else. She then questioned him back by asking why he was letting her eat that, as normally slaves didn't even get a proper meal. He answered her by saying that he wanted her to fight for him, and continued by telling her that if she was that thin, then she could not muster up strength, and also she looked like she wanted to eat that. After a while, the food came and the owner apologized for the wait. Raphtalia became excited after seeing the food and wondered if it was okay for her to eat that. Nofumi asked her to just keep quiet and eat. She complied with his order while thinking that he ordered it for her, so it was fine. She then started eating her food, however it got stuck in her neck, so he gave her water to drink, and then she thanked him very much. She then realized that she drank the water that her master offered. She then again started eating food, and he then asked her if it was tasty. She happily answered to him by saying that it was very delicious. After listening to her answer, he smiled and understood her. She then started wondering if he smiled a little just now, and then she realized that this person could smile too. After eating the food, they left the shop and came outside. Nofumi then asked her if she was full. She replied to him by saying yes. He understood her and continued by telling her that they would now go and hunt monsters outside. She then started thinking that he would force her to fight monsters, but he didn't really get angry at her so far, and he also didn't discriminate against her, a demi-human, and then she continued by thinking that he was different from all the other humans he had met so far, and then wondered who was this person. He then informed her that he would buy some things before they go hunting, and then he asked her to wait here. She complied with his order. Raphtalia then heard some men talking to each other. One of the men asked the other if he heard the rumor about the shield hero. The other man asked him what was the rumor. He answered him by telling her that it seemed like the shield hero was in Melromark. She heard all this and realized that the shield hero was in this town. She then went towards those men and called them. However, they became shocked that she was a demi-human, and one of the men asked her not to come closer to them, and then they left. Raphtalia then started thinking that even if she was able to meet the great shield hero, what was she going to do? Nofumi then came there and asked her what was wrong. She answered him by saying that it was nothing. He understood her and asked her to go then. She started thinking that she was unable to do anything anymore. Plains near Melromark. A balloon monster was chasing Raphtalia, however, Nofumi came in between and the monster bit his arm. She became concerned and uttered to him that it was biting his arm. He told her that it was nothing, and then he blubbered to her that rather than worrying about him, she should stab it. She complied with his order and stabbed the monster and killed him. She then thought that she did it. She defeated a wild monster. He exclaimed to her that there was no time to rest as the next one was coming. He defended her with his shield, and then she killed all the monsters with her knife, and then she wondered where were the next ones. He patted her on her head and asked her to calm down and assured her that there were no monsters around here anymore, and then he told her that they would collect the materials. She complied with his order and started thinking that being patted on the head, somehow it made her feel strange. He then blubbered that he was glad that he bought a slave, and this was way more efficient than when he was alone, and he continued by saying that now, he would let his shield absorb the material. She then became shocked seeing that the shield changed its shape, and then she wondered how that could be possible. Suddenly her stomach started growling because of hunger. He then mumbled that they should catch some fish for a meal, and then he exclaimed to her that he would leave the fire preparation to her. She understood him. After a while, she informed him that the fire was ready. He then told her to use that reel and help him catch some fish then. She then started thinking that she was better at catching fish with her hands. She complied with his order, and in the meantime, he caught one fish, and then she wondered if she could catch one too. She then noticed that Nofumi got a second fish, and then she wondered if it wasn't that too fast. He then kept catching fishes one after another, and then she asked him how he could catch so much. He replied to her by saying that he wondered that as well. She then noticed and thought if that weird shield was involved too. She then suddenly felt something, and then pulled up the string happily saying that she got one. Nofumi exclaimed to her that he got 3 in 1 here. He then started preparing the fish and blubbered that these kinds of technical skills were not too bad, and then he told her that it was about ready and she could eat it. She then noticed the balloon monsters biting him inside his cape. She then took the fish and started eating it, and thought that he was fine after being bitten by monsters, and he also had a strange shield, and then she wondered just who was this person. He then asked Raphtalia to drink this and explained to her that it was a medicine he compounded, and it seemed to be effective against mild colds. She then exclaimed to him that she was fine, as she would die after all. He then mumbled to her that that was only if she didn't drink proper medicine, and then he asked her if she wanted to die. She then started thinking that there were so many times she thought she wanted to die, but that would go against her father's and mother's wishes. She then took that medicine and took a sip, but then she spit it out. He told her to stop it as he made that medicine for her. She complained that the medicine was bitter. He stated to Jet that good medicine tastes bad, and if she refused, then the Slade crest would hurt her. She then complied with his order and drank the medicine. He then patted her head telling her that she did a good job drinking it. He then noticed her tail which was fluttering. She stopped her tail while he muttered to her that it was not like he was trying to touch it, and then he continued by telling her that they were camping today, and it was already late, so she should go to sleep. He then gave her a blanket, and she wrapped it around her and went to sleep. She then started thinking that she didn't like that he forced her to fight monsters, but other than that he was nice, and then she went to sleep. Nofumi noticed her and mumbled that it looked like the medicine worked, and then he started thinking that he had to make her fight for him instead from now on, and he should make sure that she was in good health, and then he thought that compounding more medicine would help her. While sleeping, Raphtalia was having nightmares about her parents and village, and then she started shouting and woke up in terror. He ran towards her and asked her what was wrong. She horrifically asked her father and mother to not leave her. He then realized that this was the panic attack that the slave trader was talking about. He then asked her not to cry, and then he hugged her, assuring her that he was right beside her. After a while, she became quiet and again went to sleep. However, then suddenly a lot of balloon monsters came and started attacking them. Nofumi then wondered why it had to be this moment, and then he fought them and killed them all. Next morning, Nofumi called Raphtalia, blubbering to her that it was time to wake up. She then in sleep wondered why it was warm, and then she mumbled just a little more, "Father." He then uttered to her that he was not her father. She then opened her eyes and became shocked and then apologized to him. He then asked her if she slept well. She answered him by saying yes, and continued by telling him that there was no problem, and then she thought that she had not been able to sleep properly since she became a slave, but she slept so well today, and then she wondered if it was because she slept on his arms. She then noticed that there were remains of balloon monsters on the ground, and then she wondered if these were from balloons, and continued by questioning if he protected her all night, and then she wondered why was he going so far for a slave. She then called him and asked just who he was, while thinking that she knew that she should not pry unnecessarily, but she was curious. He answered her by telling her that he was a hero, although the shield one. She became excited and asked him if he was one of the 4 holy heroes. He replied to her by telling her that he was the summoned hero, though he was the weakest of all 4. Raphtalia became surprised, thinking that she could not believe that she met the real one. He then stated to her that that was enough, and he was going to sleep for a while. She then questioned him what his name was. He then asked her what was wrong with her so suddenly, and told her that he wanted to sleep. She then again asked him his name. He replied to her by telling her that his name was Iwatani no Fumi. He then went to sleep, telling her to wake him up if monsters were coming. She understood him and started thinking that he had a bad mouth and scary eyes, but he was not a bad person, and continued by thinking that he was different from what she had imagined. But this person was no doubt the great shield hero. After some time, he woke up and they again started eating fish. She then asked him if they were going to the city. He replied to her by saying yes, and continued by telling her that he wanted to sell the medicine he compounded yesterday. She understood him, and then he blubbered to her that it seemed like she was not healed yet. He then took out the medicine and ordered her to drink it. She unwillingly drank the medicine and said that it was bitter. He appreciated her, saying that she finished it. She then became sad, thinking that he was not patting her today. He then noticed that and patted her, asking her to bear with it until her cold was healed, and then he asked her to do her best just a little more. She smiled and complied with him, saying yes. Melromark Castletown Drugstore. Nofumi asked Raphtalia to wait outside and told her not to leave the storefront. She understood him, and then she saw some kids playing with a ball outside. She kept staring at that ball. In the meantime, Nofumi came outside, telling her that they were going. He then noticed that she was staring at the ball, and he asked her if she wanted that ball. She became flustered and exclaimed to him that she did not want a ball like that at all, but then he noticed that she was wagging her tail. He then uttered to her to go, and she complied with him, and then they left, while she started thinking that she was just a slave, so she could not ask for too much. A forest in Melromark. Nofumi and Raphtalia were collecting some herbs when some slimy monsters attacked them. She took out her knife and killed all those monsters, but she became disgusted by the smell of those monsters. After a while, she defeated all the monsters, and then they went towards a river to wash themselves. Raphtalia was washing her clothes when her stomach started growling again because of hunger. He noticed that and wondered if she was hungry again. They both then went to the town and went to a shop. He was buying some eggnog shells. The shopkeeper told him that it would cost him 9 bronze coins. In the meantime, Raphtalia smelled something delicious, and when she looked around, she noticed that it was meat. He then came there and mumbled that they should have these for their meal then. She then surprisingly asked him if she could eat that. He then asked the meat vendor to give him 4 skewers. He then gave the skewers to her. She then asked him if she could have this many. She then started eating them, thinking that they were so tender and delicious. Nofumi then noticed a vendor and went towards him and bought a ball while she was eating her food. He then threw the ball towards her. She then questioned if it wasn't a ball, and she continued by thinking why was he buying it. He answered her by saying that she could play with it after she finished her work. She then became confused and blubbered to him that he even gave her the meat from earlier, and then wondered that she was a slave. Then why was he doing all this? He replied to her by saying that it was because she was working to cover the price he paid for her, and then he asked her not to worry about it. She then started thinking that she had been working to cover the price he paid, and then she wondered if she had been of help to him. After a while they reached an inn, and Nofumi uttered to her that they had arrived and they would stay in this inn tonight. The receptionist welcomed them, but then he realized that he was the shield hero. Nofumi then informed the receptionist that he wanted to rent a room. The receptionist refused him, saying that if a person with such rumors floating about them stayed here, then the customers would not come, and that was why he could not let him stay here. He then angrily asked the receptionist if he would let them stay here. The receptionist became afraid and agreed with him. Raphtalia tried to say something, but when he looked at her, she became terrified, thinking that it was like when they first met, as he had eyes full of hatred. He then asked her what happened. She answered him by telling him that it was nothing, and then they went towards their room. Raphtalia then started thinking that she was curious about the rumor, but she couldn't ask about that right now because if she did, she thinks that she would break something important. They then went inside their room, where he gave her the ball and told her that she could do whatever she wanted until sunset, and then he asked her to play as close to the inn as possible. She complied with him and then went outside to play, thinking that playing here was fine, as he could watch her after all. She then started playing with the ball, but then she thought that it was fun. But she felt so alone, playing all by herself. She then looked up the window and realized that Nofumi was busy, so there was no way he would play with her. Suddenly 3 boys came there, and they wondered why a demi-human was playing in their territory. They then went towards her and called her, telling her that she got something nice and asked her to give it to them. She refused to give them the ball. The boy then started snatching the ball from her and was about to punch her. She then refused and saying that this was something precious that her master gave her. Suddenly Nofumi came there and called the boys and asked them why the hell were they telling someone to give their belongings to them. The boy then went towards him and told him that that ball was not his anyway. He became annoyed and informed the boy that it was his ball and he was just lending it to this girl, and continued by telling them that taking that ball meant they were taking his belongings. The boys became confused and asked him what he was saying and referred to him as an old man, and then they asked him to go away. Nofumi then realized that these guys kept calling him old man, and then he asked them if they wanted the ball that badly. He then told them that he had some real special ones. Raphtalia then wondered if by balls he meant balloon monsters. She then asked the boys to run. He then opened his cape and took out balloon monsters and threw them at the boys, telling them that there were the balls. The boys became afraid and started running, saying that that old man went too far. He then asked the boys who they were calling an old man. Raphtalia started thinking that he was so different from the shield hero that she imagined. But still he was just like her father said, as he really did cared about the demi-humans, and then she blubbered that he was a strange person. She then started tugging his cape from behind. He looked towards her and asked her what she wanted. She smiled and thanked him for his help. He then patted her on her head and informed her that that kind of thing happened a lot in this country, and then he told her that she could continue playing but she should remain careful. She complied with him and started thinking that she really wanted him to play with her, but that was too selfish. She then dropped her ball. He took it up and threw it to her and asked her to catch it. He then embarrassedly mumbled to her that he would come with her for a little while. She became surprised and asked him if he would really come. He answered her by saying yes, and then she smiled, saying that she was so happy. At the inn in Naramark, they sat on the table, and she noticed something good on the other table. He then asked her if she wanted that for lunch. She excitedly uttered yes to him. Nofumi then informed the waiter that they would order a Dillier set and Nepalata for 2. The waiter understood him, and after a while he served food at their table. Raphtalia looked at the food and became amazed. He then exclaimed to her that she could eat. She then complied with him and started eating the food. She then noticed that he was eating with a fork and a knife, and started thinking that his way of eating was always so tidy, and compared to him, he was a very messy eater. He called her and then she apologized to him, thinking that he would get mad at her. To her surprise, he suggested to her that they should cut her hair. She became confused. He explained to her that her hair reached her eyes and disturbed her when she fought, and then he informed her that after they eat, they would cut her hair. She became worried, thinking if he would cut her hair, and continued by wondering if this was a really good idea. After eating the food, they went to their room, where he made her sit on a chair and started cutting her hair. He exclaimed to her that now he would tidy up her hair. She then again wondered if this was a good idea, and then she remembered that her friend Keel failed at cutting his own hair back at the village, and then she hoped that this would not end weirdly. He then asked her to rest assured, as he would not make her hair weird. She understood him. He then started cutting her hair and then touched her ears. She mumbled to him that it was ticklish. He angrily asked her not to move as it was dangerous, and then he told her that he was cutting the hair near her ear. so she had to bear with it. She understood him, but it was ticklish. He then again started touching her ears. She looked at him, and then he apologized to her, saying that he got a little curious. After a while he finished cutting her hair, mumbling that he thinks that this was about right. She then looked at her hair and stated that it turned out really nice, and then she thought that he could cut hair well, and continued by thinking that he was so skillful. And then she exclaimed that master was summoned here from another world, and then she wondered what kind of place he used to live in, and then she muttered that she knew nothing about him. She then noticed that he let his shield absorb her hair, and then she questioned what he just did to the hair he cut. He then ordered her that they should sleep now. She agreed with him, thinking that she could not ask him right now. While sleeping, she wondered if she could hear about it someday, though, about the rumors about his original world, and she continued by thinking that even though she was a slave, she was eating delicious food and sleeping on a warm bed. However, she hated fighting monsters, but compared to before, this was far better, and then she wished that she could keep living this kind of life forever, and then they went to sleep. Raphtalia was dreaming about her parents, where she ran towards them, telling them that she wanted to meet them, and continued by saying that she wanted to be with them forever. Her parents hugged her, telling her not to cry as she had to become stronger. Her mother explained to her that it was okay and asked her not to worry. They then told her that they would be watching over them, and then they requested her to be happy. They then happily uttered to her that she would surely be okay because she got the great shield hero on her side. She then woke up remembering her father and mother, and then she wondered if that was a dream, and she continued by thinking that today's dream was not bad, and also she was able to talk to her father and mother. She then felt something cold, and then she noticed that the bed was wet, and then she shockingly wondered if she did this, and continued by thinking what she should do as she wet herself. She then started trembling and repeatedly started apologizing with fear, thinking that Nofumi would get angry, and she had to apologize, but he might not be able to forgive her. He then woke up and asked her what was wrong, and continued by asking why was she apologizing like that. He then touched the bed and realized that that was why she was apologizing. She then again apologized to him. He patted her head and blubbered to her that if she had wet her bed, then it could not be helped. She then asked him if he was not mad. He replied to her by saying that if she was already feeling sorry, then he was not mad. Raphtalia became surprised and started thinking that even though a slave did this kind of thing, he was not mad. He then took up the mattress from bed, thinking that he would buy this from the inn, and then he informed her that he was going out to buy sheets and clothes, and then he asked her to go and wash her clothes in the water well in the garden. She complied with him and washed her clothes. He then opened an almirah and gave her a pair of her casual clothes, and then he mumbled to her that when she was dressed, they would increase their level, so she should better be ready. She understood him. After a while, they started walking towards the forest, when she glanced at him, thinking that he said he was not mad, but she wondered if that was true because he looked as gloomy as always. He then asked her not to worry about it. She then started crying, thinking that even if he said not to worry about it. He then became annoyed and asked her to drink this medicine as a punishment. She drank the medicine and afterwards stated that it was bitter. He told her to bear with it. Melromark Forest. In the forest, Raphtalia started killing monsters with her knife, which resulted in their EXP increase. Nofumi appreciated her, saying that she was getting used to it, and continued by saying that with this, they could go a bit deeper into the woods. But then suddenly they felt a presence, and a monster jumped towards them to attack them. He defended her, but the monster bit his hand. She became terrified seeing that, but he exclaimed to her that he was more than fine, and then he asked her to stab the monster. She became cold, thinking that she had to stab that living creature with this knife. He then asked her what was wrong and told her to do that quickly. She then continued by thinking that it was different from the balloon monsters they just killed, as this was a living creature, and if she stabbed it with a knife, then the blood would splatter, and then she started crying, thinking that the blood was scary. Then the slay crest started hurting her, but she didn't want to kill this monster. Nofumi then asked her listen up and stated to her that if she couldn't fight, then he could not take care of her anymore. She then became shocked, thinking that he would abandon him, and if that happened, then she would again be returning to that dark place again, but she didn't want to go there. She then encouraged herself to hurry up as she had to stab the monster, but her courage was wavering. Nofumi then explained to her that soon the waves that threaten the world would come, and until then, even if only a little, they had to become stronger. However, he didn't have a weapon, and all he could do was defend, and that was why he needed someone to fight for him. She then started thinking that because of that, a slave like her had to do it. He then exclaimed to her that if she didn't do it, then someone else would. She then thought that she had to fight against the waves that destroyed her village, against those monsters. He then mumbled to her that it was not like he wanted to fight, but that was what the shield hero was, and that was his role. She then started thinking that if he fought against them, then she wanted to become his fighting power because she didn't want another tragedy to happen, just like her village. She then understood him and attacked that monster with her knife, and its blood splattered all over her. She then blubbered to him that she would fight and then requested him to not abandon her. He agreed with her, telling her that as long as she could do her role, he would not abandon her. After a while, they sat beside the fire while Raphtalia was coughing. He mumbled to her that she was still coughing and then asked her to take her medicine. She complied with his order. At night, he muttered to her that they would take turns keeping watch, and then he asked her to go to sleep first, as he would wake her up later. She understood him and started preparing to sleep. He then murmured to her that he would sell this Yusupal's fur tomorrow, and if that was the case, then she could use it tonight. She then took the fur and started smelling it. He asked her if it was smoky. She answered her by telling him that it was a bit smoky and continued by telling him that, however, it was warm. She then started thinking that not just the fur, Master's tenderness was also warm. He understood her, and then she went to sleep. He then looked at her and realized that she was not screaming today, and then uttered that if that was the case, then the silence was good. Next morning, Raphtalia woke up with her stomach growling because of hunger, and then she thought that he was picking up the pace, and then she wondered if that meant that that would happen soon, and continued by thinking that if that was so, then she could be more useful to him. He then asked her what she was doing and then told her to come with him. She complied with him and went after him, thinking that at any rate she had to level up now and then she would be more useful to him. She was feeling okay. She replied to him by saying yes and continued by thinking that she had to work hard to level up. He then looked at her saying if that was so, and he also told her that they would also gather some medicinal herbs. They were collecting some medicinal herbs when a balloon monster came towards them. However, she took out her knife and killed that monster. She became happy saying that she did it. He appreciated her by saying that they should keep this pace. She too agreed with him. Suddenly, an Yusupal monster came leaping towards them, and she became nervous. He then asked her if she could kill it. She answered him by saying yes, and started thinking that because she had decided to fight with him, and that was why things like blood did not scare her. She then pranced towards the Yusupal monster and stabbed it with her knife and killed it. However, her knife broke while killing the monster. She became sad seeing that the knife that he gave her broke, and then she apologized to him. He explained to her that it could not be helped as everything had its own lifespan, and then he suggested that for now they should return it to the weapon shop. She understood him and gave him the dismembered knife for the time being. She then tried to say something, and he asked her what was that. She replied to him by saying that she would be his strength. He then asked her if that was so, and then they left. At the weapons shop, the shopkeeper became happy seeing them, and he exclaimed to Raphtalia that although it had been only 3 days, her complexion was already looking considerably better. She then asked him if that was so. He answered her by saying that in addition she had got a good look. She said yes, thinking that her master didn't discriminate against her, and that was why she was glad. No Fumi then blubbered to the shopkeeper that he would order a weapon and armor for her that was around 65 silver pieces. The shopkeeper informed him that that should not be a problem, but then he asked him how about his. He replied to him by saying that he didn't need any. Raphtalia became surprised and asked him if he didn't need it. He questioned her back by asking her if he looked like he needed anything. She then started thinking that now that he said it, that was true, but he should get proper equipment first, rather than her. The shopkeeper then mumbled to him that if that was what he wanted, then it was about time that he gave her a sword. He then gave her a sword, telling her that it was an iron short sword, and continued by telling her that he would at least give her a lecture on how to use it. She then thanked him very much and uttered that she had never used a sword before. The shopkeeper then gave her a leather breastplate, telling her that it was a bit old, and then he sized it up for her. He then asked her what she thought and continued by asking if it was too tight. She answered him by telling him that it fits perfectly, but then her stomach again started growling because of hunger. No Fumi asked her if she was hungry again and told her that she was always starving. The shopkeeper then explained to him that Raphtalia was a demi-human, and it was natural for the kids to level up. He then asked her if that was so. She nodded her head to agree with the shopkeeper. He then understood it and mumbled that it could not be helped then, and then he informed her that he would go and buy some food, and then he advised her that in the meantime, she should learn how to wield a sword. She then started thinking that the master's reaction when hearing that demi-humans grow rapidly when they level up showed that he didn't know about it, and then she realized that even the well-informed master had things that he didn't know about. The shopkeeper then apologized to her, telling her that Nofumi was ill-informed about the common knowledge of this place. She then uttered to him that that was okay, as he told her that he was the great shield hero. The shopkeeper then wondered if that was so, and then continued by telling her that Nofumi could be difficult, but he was not a bad guy, and then he requested her to support him. She agreed with him, telling him that she had decided to fight together with him. The shopkeeper then smiled, saying that it looked like Nofumi had found a nice companion. The shopkeeper then asked her if that was the case, then why didn't they start the sword training? She complied with him and started practicing swordsmanship. The shopkeeper saw her and appreciated her, telling her that she has got good muscles and a good memory, and then he encouraged her by telling her that she would surely be a fine swordsman. She then happily asked him if really that was so, and then started thinking that if she became a fine swordsman, then she wondered if Nofumi would praise her more. The shopkeeper then noticed him and informed Raphtalia that he was back. He then patted her on her head, telling her that she was looking pretty good, and then he asked her to keep working like that. She complied with him. He then gave her the food, and she became very excited and started eating her food. He then asked the shopkeeper if he would eat too. The shopkeeper asked him if he was sure. Nofumi answered him by saying that it was a reward for the lecture, and then he asked him if there was a hunting ground in the vicinity that they could go with their gear. The shopkeeper started thinking and told him that he would recommend them to go to the Ryute forest. Nofumi and Raphtalia then came outside. He then noticed a vendor and asked her how much it was. She informed him that it would be 2 silver coins for everything. He understood her and asked her if there was an area where he could earn some quick money. She answered him by saying yes, and continued by telling him that if they could find some ore in the abandoned mine over there, then they could get a good price, but she hesitated. He then asked her if there was a problem. She replied to him by telling him that since the first wave, dangerous monsters had settled there. Raphtalia wondered what the wave was. The vendor wondered what the heroes were doing. Raphtalia then started thinking that there were a lot of people suffering from the waves, but her master was working really hard. Nofumi thanked the vendor for her information, and then he asked Raphtalia to come with him to the abandoned mine. She complied with him and followed him. They then reached the mine. She looked here and there and called Nofumi. He mumbled to her that he would look for something they could use. She then asked him if they were really fine without asking permission. He explained to her that this was an abandoned place, so it would not be an issue coming in and taking things out. She then wondered if that was the case. He then picked up ropes and pickaxe, and then he found a map of the mine's interiors and exclaimed that it would help. She looked at him and started wondering what it was right now. He didn't look like a hero. He then realized that it could get absorbed in his shield, and it got converted into a rope shield, and then he wondered what its skill was. He then used the airstrike shield and became surprised. Raphtalia became amazed seeing that it was a transparent shield, and she had never seen something like this. He then composed himself and told her that he had just obtained a pretty useful skill, and then he suggested that leaving that aside, they should go. They then went inside the mine, and she noticed that it was so dark. He then murmured to her that it seemed like there were dangerous monsters, and then he told her that if anything happened, she should run away immediately. She then agreed with him and started wondering what kind of monster was lurking here, and continued by thinking that this was not a time to be afraid, as she would be useful to her master. They then kept walking, and then he stopped her, informing her that this area was the mining point. Raphtalia then noticed something and told him about it. He realized that those were dog-like footprints and continued by thinking that maybe it was the monster that the peddler was talking about. She then wondered if that was a dog and became afraid. He calmed her down, telling her that it was okay, as when the time would come, he would protect her. She clenched the pickaxe in her hand and encouraged herself, saying that it was okay as she had the shield hero with her. They then walked some more and found some rocks. He looked at them and uttered that these appeared to be mineable, and then he started mining the rocks with the pickaxe. Raphtalia noticed a dog-like shadow while he found a stone, saying that it looked like it would sell for a high price. He then asked her that this time she should dig too, and then he looked behind to see her. Raphtalia noticed that that was the dog monster that killed her parents, and then she started screaming. Raphtalia started trembling after looking at the dog monster and started screaming, telling it not to come closer to her. The dog monster leaped towards her to attack her, but Nofumi jumped in between, saying he would not let it attack her. He then jumped off the cliff with her inside a river and used his rope shield to stay alive. He then asked her if she was okay. She answered him by telling him that a dog monster attacked her village and killed her father and mother. He then realized that she suddenly panicked, and then he wondered if that was the reason why she cried at night. He then took her out of the river and asked her if she had calmed down a bit. She apologized to him and started thinking that even though she had decided to fight and even though she decided to be useful, she couldn't do anything. He then asked her just what happened and uttered to her to tell him properly. She understood him and told him that that day her happy Lirolona village was attacked by the monsters and her parents also got killed, and the monsters suddenly robbed everything. Nofumi then understood her and realized that she had lost her parents due to a dog monster, and that was the reason why she cried at night. Suddenly the dog monster again came there. She saw it and again started panicking, saying that it was here and they had to run. He asked her to calm down and informed her that that was not the monster that killed her parents, as it didn't have 3 heads because it had 2 heads. She then realized that it was different, and then he asked her to listen to him and told her that she would defeat it. She became terrified and exclaimed that there was no way she could do it. He then blubbered to her that if she fought and he got stronger, then they would be able to drive away the wave of calamity, and then the tragedy would not repeat, and continued by telling her that her parents would not come back, but the people who were likely to be in the same situation as her, they could save them, and then he asked her to rest assured as he would definitely protect her. The dog monster then jumped on him to attack him, but he stopped it with his shield. He then asked her to stab it with her sword now. She then started thinking that she had to fight as she had to help her master, but her legs and hands would not move. The dog monster then bit Nofumi's shoulder and she became terrified. He asked her to hurry up, but she was traumatized, saying no. He exclaimed to her that if he died, then she would die too. Her slave crest then started hurting her, and she then took out her sword thinking that she was scared even though she had to fight, but she had to do it. He then told her that it was enough and then told her that if she couldn't fight, then she should run away and he would buy her some time. She then thought that that would be the same as that time, and if this went on, her master would die, and she didn't want that because she did not want anybody in front of her to die or leave her behind. She then took her sword out and shouted to him that he must not die and slashed the dog monster. The dog monster threw her away with one of its heads and started moving towards her. She became terrified and then remembered that Nofumi asked her not to worry as he would definitely protect her. The dog monster jumped to attack her, but he used his airstrike shield and saved her. She then thought that her master protected her, so she had to fulfill her role. She then dashed towards the dog monster and stabbed it with her sword, and the dog monster died. She became shocked thinking that she defeated the dog monster. Nofumi called her and appreciated her by telling her that she did a good job. She then realized that her master was alive, and then she started thinking that the reason she could defeat monsters and the one who gave her a purpose to live was the shield hero. She then ran towards him and hugged him. He then exclaimed to her that even if he had the power of the shield, that would still hurt him. She then requested him not to die and asked him not to leave her alone. He then patted her head and told her that she would fight, and he would protect her, and continued by telling her that if she did that, then neither of them would die. She understood him and lost her unconscious thinking that she wondered why rather than master. Calling him this way felt more natural, and it sounded nice. He then informed her that after letting his shield absorb this monster, they would continue the mining. She complied with him. He then asked her if she could move already. He then answered him by saying a little longer, and continued by thinking that right now she wanted to feel his warmth just a little longer. He then uttered that it could not be helped. He then absorbed the dog monster with his shield, and she became afraid after seeing it. He then explained to her that it was the 2-headed black dog shield, and its ability was not bad either. He then assured her not to worry as this was just a shield and it was not alive. She then came closer to the shield and still got afraid. Nofumi started laughing and then blubbered to her that they should continue mining. While mining, Raphtalia thought that he was really mean and continued by thinking that even though he was so gentle and acted like a shield hero just a while ago, after mining for a while she found something and called him. He then informed her that it was light metal and the purity was pretty high too. She then asked him to try absorbing it into the shield. He agreed with her and started trying it. The shield absorbed it, and then he stated that it was the highest defense among all the shields he unlocked until now. She became happy saying that he did it. He then advised her to dig more as they could raise their funding to do their activities. She complied with him thinking that they needed more money to become stronger, so she had to dig more. After a while, they dug a lot of stones. He then muttered that this should be enough, and then she mumbled that they should head back now. He too agreed with her. She then called him and explained to him that they should definitely survive. He agreed with her by saying of course. She then started thinking that she didn't want to lose people that were precious to her anymore, and that was why they would definitely survive together. And in remark. Raphtalia woke up in her bed when she saw that Nofumi had already woken up. She then explained that Nofumi's mornings start early because whenever she woke up, he was already always awake. He then noticed that she woke up and uttered to her that she could still sleep some more. She denied him, saying that she was awake now, and then told him that she was going to wash her face. He understood her. She then ran downstairs and took water out of the well and washed her face and mumbled that as Nofumi's follower, it was important to take care of her looks, because she didn't want to embarrass him. She then dried her towel off and informed him that she was going for a run. He understood her and asked her to be careful to not get in trouble with some idiots. She complied with him and went out. She then explained that running was her first routine she started after meeting Nofumi, as she needed physical strength to fight. She continued by explaining that there were not many people out at this time, so it was easy to do some running. Suddenly a horse cart came there, and it pushed her on the ground, saying that she was in the way, and continued by saying that demi-humans should walk at the side of the road. She then stood up and uttered that it was just like Nofumi said, as the way demi-humans were treated in this country was inhumane, and for some reason, he was also treated similarly, but unlike her, he would not back down, and she envied that strength that she didn't have, and then she thought that he was so cool. After running, she went to the weapons shop and started knocking on its door. The shopkeeper welcomed her and she mumbled to him that she would be in his care today. He then gave her a sword and asked her to start. She took it and thanked him for it. She then explained that after she decided to fight the waves, she went to Elhart, the shopkeeper's place, to learn how to use a sword. Elhart then asked her if she was really okay with him teaching her, and continued by asking if it wasn't better to learn from the shield hero. She exclaimed to him that it was fine because it seemed like Nofumi never wielded a sword. He then became surprised that he never wielded a sword, and continued by telling her that he heard that Nofumi came from another world. Then that world must be very peaceful. She then started thinking that she herself didn't know anything about his original world, but someday she wanted to find out how he lived there, and how he grew up. She then asked Elhart if he had been working as a blacksmith since back then. He answered her by saying no, and continued by telling her that back then, he used to be an adventurer. She became amazed knowing that as to her he looked strong, but she never thought that he was actually an adventurer. He then became flustered and told her that a lot happened back then, and he became a disciple of Master Blacksmith. She then apologized to him if she was rude and asked him what level he was. He replied to her by saying that it had been a long time, so he had forgotten his level, and then he told her that it was time to start practice. She agreed with him, thinking that maybe his level was higher than she thought. He then uttered to her to start with swinging, and then he asked her to remember what he said yesterday to her and try it. She complied with him and started finishing. After practicing for a while, Elhart stopped her, telling her that that was enough, and informed her that her swings were still a little unbalanced, but it had been pretty stable compared to before, and then he asked her to keep practicing on her own too. She understood him. He then took the sword from her, telling her that it was about time for him to work, and then he told her that she should also go back to Nofumi too. She then thanked him, and then she called him from behind and told him that she only had a little, but this was for taking time out of his day to teach her. He then smiled and mumbled to her that there was no need to pay him. She then blubbered to him that she made him spend his time teaching her, so she could not just give him nothing in return. The shopkeeper then muttered to her that the shield hero and she would fight for this country after all, and teaching her swordsmanship meant that the security of this country would increase. She tried to say something, but the shopkeeper informed her that he already got the money from the shield hero. She then became confused, wondering if he gave him money. The shopkeeper exclaimed that that was how it was, and that was why he could not accept money from her. She understood him and started thinking that Nofumi realized that she went to the shopkeeper's place. He then asked her to keep it a secret that he told her. She complied with him. Then she went to collect herbs with Nofumi in the forest. He informed her that the herbs would be around here, and then he asked her to pick whatever could be eaten. She understood him by saying yes. She then found a mushroom, and then she started looking around more and found more of it, but some of them were inedible. She then took what she collected and showed it to him. He then looked at it and mumbled to her that she went too far on collecting food. She became flustered. He then exclaimed to her that no matter how much food they had, it would not trouble them. Suddenly some balloon monsters came and she noticed them. He then muttered that it was right as he thought about raising their levels, and then he asked her to attack them. She complied with him. She then started attacking the monsters with her sword, and then he called her and asked her if she could still go. She replied to him by saying yes. Then they killed some Upasa monsters, and after a while, he murmured that he thinks that was about it. She understood him. He then noticed her and realized that she had gotten pretty dirty. She then apologized to him. He then advised her that they should take a rest near that river. He then told her that he would be waiting here, so she should go over there to clean herself. She then asked him if he could go a little bit further. He replied to her by saying that they didn't know when monsters would come, so it was dangerous to go further. She became flustered, saying that that was true. He then asked her what a little kid like her was worrying about, and then he ordered her to just hurry up and go. She then went behind a rock and wondered if it was hard to see here, and then she went inside the river to wash her body. After a while, she uttered that she was clean now, and then she started thinking that she had to be wary of blood next time. She then wiped herself with a towel and wore her clothes again and went towards him and blubbered to him that she would help him make the food. He agreed with her and asked her to cut the ingredients there into bite-sized pieces. He then sprinkled a powder in food. She asked him what was that. He answered her by saying that it was a consomme-like thing he made. She asked him what was consomme. He replied to her by informing her that it was a mix of crushed dried vegetables. She understood him saying that that was one way to use vegetables. He then poured the vegetables into the pan and exclaimed that all that was left was just to boil them. After some time, he took the lid off from the pan and stated that the Yusupul consomme soup was now finished. She then blubbered that it had a good smell. He then poured the soup in her bowl and gave it to her. Before eating, Nofumi prayed, and she too replicated him after seeing him. She then took a bite. He asked her how it was. She answered him by telling him that the taste of vegetables and the meat soaked into the soup worked together so well, and she continued by saying that it was very delicious. He understood her, but she noticed that he somehow looked dissatisfied, and then she wondered if he was dissatisfied with the taste. She then again took a bite and uttered that even though it was delicious, she wondered why he looked dissatisfied. He then asked her if she wanted more. She requested him to give her more, and after eating the food, she mumbled that she ate a lot, and she was so happy that she could eat Nofumi's delicious food. He then gave her the medicine, telling her that now was the time to take her medicine. She was shocked. He then asked her why she thought they went to collect herbs. She tried to explain herself, saying that she had not coughed that much lately. He then blubbered to her that that was why it was important to take her medicine to cure it. She drank the medicine and thought that the happy afterglow was now gone. He then gave her a candy and told her that if she didn't like the bitterness, then she could lick it. She then asked him if she could eat that. He answered her by saying that she just had to work hard. She took the candy, telling him that she would do her best, and then ate it. He then informed her that, at noon, it was the time to sell the light metal they collected from the mine earlier, and continued by saying that if it was the usual merchant, then the negotiations would go smoothly. Ryute Village. Nofumi was seen attacking a man with the balloon monsters under his cape, while Raphtalia stood there in confusion. The man shouted to him, saying that this kind of evil deed would not be forgiven. At Ryute Village, Nofumi and Raphtalia entered the village, where he noticed that there was a merchant. He then uttered that he wanted to sell some ores, but the usual merchant was not here. He then went towards the available merchant and asked him if he would buy the ores that they collected. He answered him by saying yes. Nofumi then showed him the light metal. The merchant glanced at it, however, she noticed that he had an unpleasant stare. The merchant took the light metal and informed them that it would be worth 2 copper coins. She became shocked listening to this, saying that that was too low, and told the merchant that the fair price would be more than 5 times that. The merchant ignored her and went to Nofumi and asked him what he thought. She shouted at him, telling him not to ignore her. The merchant then blubbered that he was not interested in conversing with a mere slave. Nofumi then intervened, saying that, as she said, the price he stated seemed to be much lower than the fair price. The merchant then told him that the fair price changes depending on the time. Nofumi explained to him that he said that, but he did buy with the fair price when dealing with the guy before. The merchant then asked him if he didn't see it wrong. Raphtalia then realized that this merchant gave 1 silver coin to the person before, and that looked like a light metal too, and then she realized that this merchant was looking down on them. Nofumi understood him and then took out the balloon monsters from his cape and threw them on that merchant and menacingly asked him if he could buy these as well. The merchant mumbled to him that this kind of evil deed would not be forgiven and continued by saying that he would report this to the authorities. Nofumi then asked him how he would inform the authorities if there was nothing left of him. The merchant then uttered to them that he would pay them properly, and then he requested them to spare his life. He then explained to him that he should have done that from the start, and then he again took the balloon monsters inside his cape, while telling him that he was not saying that he had to buy it at a high price, as it was fine as long as he paid a fair price. The merchant understood him, saying what a customer he was. He then took the money and started walking, saying that that was why traveling merchants were troublesome, and he preferred the usual merchant. Some ladies then noticed Nofumi and started talking among themselves that he was that guy again who used balloon monsters to threaten people. Raphtalia then started thinking that even though he was forceful for some things, he was not a bad person. Inn at Ryute village. They both entered the inn and sat on the table. Raphtalia thought that this could not go on as she had to be disciplined, and continued by thinking that she practiced with her sword every day, but stopping at that was not enough. Then the food came to their table. She noticed him and realized that, as usual, the way Nofumi eats food was so elegant, and then she determined herself. After eating the food, she started practicing with her sword when a lady came out telling her that she was getting better at it, and then she asked her if her master ordered her to. Raphtalia answered her by saying no and continued by telling her that she was doing it of her own volition as she wanted to become stronger. The lady then uttered to her that she was so serious, and then she asked her if she could chop some wood again after she was done, and continued by telling her that she would deduct their accommodation fee as usual. Raphtalia agreed with her, saying that she would do that, but for the reward this time, she asked the lady to teach her table manners. The lady agreed to her, but then asked her why so suddenly she asked about it. Raphtalia answered her by telling her that she wanted to eat elegantly like Nofumi. The lady then appreciated her by telling her that she was a hard worker. The lady then told her that she could not teach her any fancy manners like what aristocrats use. Raphtalia then blubbered to her that general manners were fine with her. The lady then agreed to her, saying that after she was done chopping the woods, she should come to the dining room. Raphtalia thanked her very much. At the dining table, the lady served her some food, telling her that she prepared some special dishes for her, and continued by saying that, as promised, she would teach her some table manners, and then she asked her to first eat like she usually does. Raphtalia understood her, saying that she would be in her care. She then took a fork and thrust it into the meat and ate it. The lady looked at her and mumbled that she was someone worthy of training, and then she asked Raphtalia to straighten her posture. She complied with her. The lady continued by telling her that next she should fold the napkin in two, put it on her lap, and should make sure that the crease was pointing up, and then she told her to hold the knife in her right hand and fork in her left hand, and continued by informing her that before she eat, she should cut the food into bite-sized pieces. Raphtalia followed her instructions and took a bite. The lady asked her not to put too much strength. She understood her. Raphtalia became happy as she somehow managed to finish eating the meat. Then the lady served her a fish, telling her that this was next. She excitedly stated that she would do her best, and after the lessons, she thanked the lady. Then she went towards her room, thinking that she ate too carefully while practicing, and now she was hungry again as she worked really hard. She then mumbled that she had to tell Nofumi, and then she opened the door, telling him that it was time for dinner. He then asked her if it was time already, and then he complied with her, saying that they should go right away. She agreed with him. They both then went to the dining room and sat on the table, while he noticed that it seemed like this place was noisier than usual today. The lady then came there and thanked them for waiting and served them the food, and told them that today was the day they served spicy food, the specialty of Ryute village. Raphtalia covered her nose after smelling it. The lady then informed him that if he could eat it within the time limit, then it was free. Raphtalia then thought that even though the lady said that, this level of high was unbearable, and it was really hard for her since her nose was more sensitive than humans, and even if there was some distance, her nose would still feel it. Nofumi realized that it was free and exclaimed that now there was no reason to not eat it, and then he asked her to finish it. She then asked him if he was serious. He then started eating it. She again asked him if he was not finding it not good. He answered her by saying not at all. She then wondered if the food was actually not that much hot as it looked, and her nose too was starting to get accustomed to the coolness, and then she decided that she would try to eat this too, as this was a chance to show off her table manners. She then put the spoon in the soup without making a sound and took a sip, remembering that she should not get into cat posture. After eating it, her mouth started tingling as it was too not good for her, and then a drop came directly into her nose, and she was not able to handle that. Nofumi asked her if she was okay while giving her a glass of water. She drank the water, saying that it was really not good after all. No Fumi mumbled that for him it was not good at all, but he never said that it was not a not good dish. She took her tongue out, saying that it still hurts. He then explained to her that if she didn't eat it, then he would, since it would be meaningless if they didn't finish eating it in time, and then he requested her not to mind him. She then started thinking that she lost her fighting spirit, and she was happy that there was other food ready too. He then finished the not good soup and called the lady, telling her that he finished eating it. The lady muttered that she was surprised, as she never thought that there was a person who could eat their not good food whole, and continued by saying that, as promised, today's meal was free for them. The people surrounding them started celebrating and appreciated him, saying that he did it, and she also finished it without changing his expression, and continued by saying that nobody has finished eating this not good food, and then stated that this was the birth of the Spice King. Raphtalia then asked him how he could eat that food. He answered her by telling her that first off, he couldn't taste anything. She then wondered what was that with this reasoning. She then started thinking that even though she had just learned table manners, he then pointed out to her to look at her elbow. She became confused. He continued by asking her if she learned table manners. She answered him by saying yes, and continued by telling him that she learned them from the innkeeper lady. He then explained to her that she should not eat with her elbow on the table. She then apologized to him and started thinking that he noticed that she learned how to eat properly, and she became very happy. Next morning, Raphtalia was wearing clothes in her room, thinking that she would go for her morning walk. She then noticed that her clothes had shrunk, but then suddenly her shirt ripped off, and then she became shocked, thinking that she got fat. Raphtalia started looking at her ripped shirt. No Fumi came there and asked her what happened. She became surprised and told him that this was nothing. He became suspicious and came forward to look, and then he realized that her clothes ripped. She agreed with him, telling him that it seemed like the area around her hip had become tighter. He then started staring at her. She then asked him what was it. He replied to her by saying that of course she would get fatter after all that food she ate. She then became embarrassed and uttered to him that she was not fat, and continued by saying that it was just that her body got bigger. She then started thinking that she also thought that she gained weight for a moment though. He then smiled and exclaimed to her that she was right, and continued by saying that it was just that she was getting a little plumpier. She then became flustered and exclaimed to her that it was not like that. He then muttered to her that she was a little skinny before, so it was good that she got a little plumpier. She then started thinking that he was only talking about her getting plumpier, and then she requested him to look carefully and told him that she grew up. He then blubbered to her that he thought she was getting a little bigger, but that was only it. She then wondered if he really didn't realize that. He then patted her on her head and told her that she was still that little Raphtalia. She then started wondering why she really still looked like a little child to him. And then she wondered if she really looked that childish, and continued by thinking if it was because that she didn't look mature enough, but then she thought that her chest grew a little though. He then asked her what she was spacing out for, and continued by saying that since she got fatter, they were going to buy clothes for her. She then became angry, saying that she didn't get fat. They then left the inn, and while walking he asked her what was wrong, and then continued by asking if she was not happy that they were going to buy her new clothes. She answered him by saying that she was happy though. He then continued by asking her why she was making such a face. She then started thinking that acting like this might look childish, and then she answered him by saying that it was not like she was angry, as he could see. He then became suspicious and asked her what was with that weird wording. She then became flustered and started thinking that acting like an adult was hard. She then noticed a shop and suggested that they should look here, and informed her that it was a used clothing store, and then asked her if she was sure. She replied to him by saying that she was fine with it as she might keep growing, and then they entered the shop. The shopkeeper then welcomed them, but then he noticed that she was a demi-human and uttered that they don't have clothes for demi-humans here. No Fumi then showed him the balloon monsters inside his cape and told the shopkeeper that the base was not different from humans, and they would make the adjustment themselves. And then he asked the shopkeeper if he had any problem with that. The shopkeeper then realized that he was the shield hero, and then he requested them to take their time here, and then he apologized to him. He then asked Raphtalia not to worry about it, and told her that he did not really understand clothes, so she should pick for herself, and then he suggested to her that she should pick clothes for her everyday use too. Thanks for watching it, guys. Smash that subscribe button like it's your morning alarm clock.